Good afternoon, everybody. You heard the name of Guatemala being mentioned a couple of times. Happens that the Guatemala program was the main program for many agencies about 5 years ago. A lot of Guatemalan kids came to Guatemala before this Hague Convention Treaty was implemented. About a year before the United States implemented the treaty, we did that in Guatemala. And just like here in the United States, we have elections for president and congressman every 4 years. And right when the reform of the adoption law happens to go through the Congress, we changed government. And this government was a little bit close to UNICEF, the wife of the president. So UNICEF somehow, they developed some kind of, they are kind of like against adoptions, international adoptions. So for the last 4 years, since 2007, the Congress passed the reform and gave the central authority about 90 days to come up with some kind of regulations. And they never did. I mean, for the last 4 years, until 6 months ago, they came up with some, about a year ago, they came up with some regulations who, at the same time, they tried to implement a pilot program with children with special needs, siblings, and older kids. But at the same time, since it closed 4 years ago, there were about 400 adoptions who got stranded in the system. They just stayed there, and somehow the State Department, they said, before you guys open for pilot programs, clear the table. Because there is 400 children and families with that stress. You guys can imagine what's going on with these couples here in the United States and the kids over there. So it was like 6 months ago when they somehow, after the trip of, there is a woman, a congresswoman. I think her name is, her last name is Jackson? No. Yeah. After a couple of trips to Guatemala, this lady was able to move the machinery. And all of a sudden, they came up and they gave some new regulations, and they are, at this point, taking care of those 400 adoptions that I mentioned before. And last weekend, last Sunday, we had our first round of elections. And looks like if an ex-army general is going to be the next president of Guatemala with a different mentality, which is good. And we have the second round in November the 6th. So hopefully, we're going to have the program ready sometime next year, which is very good because it's about 4 hours away from here. You guys are going to be able to fly really fast. And since we've been closed for such a long time, there is about, that I know, about 10,000 kids that I know, plus who knows how many more in different, because it's our country has 14 million people living there, but about 48 or 60%, between 48 and 55% are with people under 24 years. So we are a very young country, and everybody, there is no sexual education, nothing. So I don't know if you guys ever been to one, I think Salvador and Honduras, Costa Rica, it's basically the same. We have so many young people having children. And I won't get inside cases that will give you real bad opinion about what's going on, because there is so many kids who are dumping the garbage sites, they're living in the streets. There has been cases of, well, too many children here, so you guys can imagine. So hopefully things are changing. And thanks to Margaret and our friends here from the connection with the State Department, things are kind of like clearing up. And we have people from Panama, from Colombia, from Peru, who are a little bit ahead of many countries. Like Colombia, I think, is one of the best programs in the world at this time, when we talk about countries who are already dealing with the Hague Convention. So there is a lot of good news, and hopefully pretty soon you're gonna You guys gonna be able to go to Guatemala and come back with such a beautiful experience. In my case, thanks to Margaret, I have a 2-year-old too. I fell in love with one of the kids. We had an orphanage down there about 4 years ago, and I met this beautiful little boy who is the star of my life right now. So you guys do your best, and pretty soon you guys will find out what's to have someone who grows right inside your heart. Don't come from you, but your heart is, the recipient. It's such a beautiful experience. So have a nice afternoon, everybody.